So the only reason I'm using a microphone is because Paul, can you hear me? Good. We're going to live stream this. The beauty of today is you can sit in your office and multitask, although I think the human being is not actually capable of multitasking, but anyway, you can, watch the video as you're doing the other. I wanted to do a town hall because we've had so many things going on, and also because I wanted to spend the opportunity, the time to kind of talk with you about everything that's been in the news in the past week, and particularly about the A. Harry Moore, which is a problem that we've had since I showed up at the door 7 years ago, but I think it's been going on for a long, long time. And it's something that we're very eager to get fixed, and I think we finally, whatever it took, as I told the mayor last week, I don't really care how we do this, I just want the problem solved. Because those students deserve to have an excellent education and a great facility. So, and the staff there works very hard. So, but I'll get to that. We've got a lot of other things, and at the end of the day, it's really important that we talk about the things that we're doing here at NJCU for our own folks. We continue every year to get good rankings. This is very helpful to us when I sit down with donors, as I did last week in Washington, D.C. They are always very interested in our diversity. So we are U.S. News and World Report. Our social mobility is number 33 in social mobility in the Northeast. Best bang for your buck, we're number 67 in the Northeast region. And Edtech is the 180th. They are quite well ranked. And then the Washington Monthly had us college rankings there, 121. Sue, do you know what that one was? Sue Gerber.
Sorry.
Do you remember the Washington Monthly ranking that we got? 67 in the Northeast? Okay. So the rankings, we do fairly well every year. One of the things that we are always very good at is our diversity. And I'll share this story with you. I just finished eating lunch with the gentleman who is the co-chair of the New Jersey Symphony Orchestra. It is an organization that's been around almost 100 years. And they brought in a new director 3 years ago who spent his career, some of it down in Australia, some of it in London. And one of the things he's recognized is that they need to diversify the audience, the performers. And they're looking to places like NJCU because we've been doing a good job for a long time, especially in music, dance, and theater, well, in all our departments, but that particular area has a very diverse set of performers that they train. So they're very eager for us to collaborate with them, and they've asked us to get more involved. So I'm excited about the opportunity there, and I think you're going to find as the years go by that people are finally figuring out that diversity strengthens an organization. There's so much research about that says the more diverse your organization is, the stronger you are. So I'm thrilled that we get that ranking every year. These are our new faculty that we've brought. We don't have pictures of everybody because they all haven't gone by to get their cards yet, so we capture you then. They come from a lot of different ways. We have faculty who coming for us from nursing program, chemistry, management, sociology, marketing, accounting, security studies, financial, I think that's finance and computer science. We've been able to hire very bright faculty. I think if you read the welcome back letter, it talked about some of the places they came from. In the meantime, our faculty are out doing pretty amazing things right now. I have some out on Fulbrights, some who won awards this summer for their work, whether it is in their exhibits that they're doing or some of their research. We have some new leadership in the facilities and construction area. There has been so much going on in our real estate and capital projects that Jeff, where are you? You want to stand up so everybody can see who you are? There we go. Jeff comes to us from Rutgers, and I'm thrilled that he's here because he's really brought a different level of understanding of how we need to be doing the real estate. Aaron does a fantastic job, but I feel like we're really moving at a fast pace, and Aaron now has a partner that can help him with all the work that we need to be doing. Andre, are you here, or he's probably busy working? Andre Pearson actually came from, I think it's Jones Lang LaSalle before, and before that he was, I think he did work at a university, but he has the talent of not only having worked in private industry, but also in higher education. So he comes to us, and he's going to be our AVP for Building Services, very responsive, and he's been busy this week because, as I'll explain later, we're in the process now of moving all the A. Harry Moore equipment from the facility where it is now to their new facility. The student enrollment. We are on target to be a larger freshman class than last year. We've grown our freshman class every year. The downside is this. We've grown the freshman class. In the meantime, across the state, the community colleges, their enrollment has been shrinking, which means you have fewer number of students who can come to you. In the meantime, it'll be online right after the presentation. In the meantime, other institutions like Montclair State and Kane are wanting to grow. Montclair State would like to grow to 25,000 students. They started at 16 when I showed up at the door 7 years ago. They're now about at 20. They are a Research 1, and to really get that distinction from the Carnegie classification, she needs to have 25,000 students, so she is on a real tear. The way you get this done is you do joint degrees. You do a dual admit. That's the fastest, surest way to know that if a student starts with at Hudson County Community College, that they're going to finish at Montclair State or going to finish at NJCU is through the dual admit. So I'm thrilled that a lot of the departments have worked very hard because, as you can see, we were down 7% in our transfer market, and that will continue unless and until we really get to where we have a very strong relationship. We've begun to put people on these campuses, but it doesn't do you any good. They'll walk right past the admissions person because they already have a relationship with the sociology department or with the criminal justice department or whatever it is that kind of really makes the connection happen. Brookdale's been very helpful with us this year. They took their relationship with Rutgers and moved it back to their main campus, which has meant that it's far more enticing for students to say, well, I'll finish my business degree at Rutgers rather than finishing it in JCU. So they've said to us, look, why don't you come to campus, and until you get your campus built at Monmouth, why don't you do some of your teaching on our campus so that we have more interest in getting students to stay with us. So it is going to be a highly competitive market with transfers, and it's something we have to work on. The graduate enrollment is up, and I'm thrilled with that. Some of that is attributable, and you'll see this in a minute, to the new educational leadership program we have going on. So our undergraduate enrollment is about 2.8%, 2.6% down. We did budget for that. We anticipated that we were probably going to have this in terms of this melt. This is just the new, so based on that and based on our continuing enrollment, we based on a certain budget, so we have budgeted that. However, at the same time, one of the easiest ways the board has said that we need to work on trying to keep our enrollment strong is if I bring in, for example, 1,061 freshmen, you can retain them. And I'll show you a group that's doing a good job at that. We have a number of groups that do a really good job of retraining students, freshman to sophomore, then sophomore to junior, junior to senior. And there are reports, I believe, that are accessible to most of you for you to see where we're tracking and how we're tracking. It is our retention we need to work on, and I'm thrilled that student affairs and academic affairs are working very closely together on programs to ensure that we can retain our students. It's about making sure that we make sure they can pay their bills. If they can't, what can we do to get them to work on campus? What can we do to make sure that they have the right kind of support in terms of the mental health facilities, counseling? That's really important, along with things that we need to do in terms of their tutoring. So we've really beefed up that area. So I want to spend the opportunity to talk about two programs, and this is one that I was thrilled to find out about. If you look at their 6-year graduation rate, it's at 49%. And sort of the magic number that institutions like ours want to get to is somewhere over 50%. If you can get somewhere between 52 and 55, you're golden, because that's about what commuter students who have busy lives, that's about the best they can do. I want you to see OSP is almost already there, and you should be very proud of them because they have marched down this road. They weren't there 6 years ago. and they are today. I'm very thrilled for the work that they've done. If you look at their freshman to sophomore retention, it's about what ours is. We would like that freshman to sophomore retention to be 85. If you can get the general population freshman retention rate at 85%, that means you're probably going to get your six-year graduation close to the 52% that you want. So you got to start with the freshmen, if I can keep them as freshmen. Now, what OSP does very well is, boy, you're committed. Those students are absolutely committed. I met a woman early last week who graduated from our Pro-OSP program a few years ago. She's in medical school. She's taking a year out to work on a master's. Students who graduate from OSP program do an amazing job, and I learned last week that our own Al Ramey was an OSP student when he graduated, when he went to college. So I told him he needs to go speak to the OSP students. The accomplishments. Daniela was a Governor Hispanic Fellows Program. Miranda was a 3-time medal winner in the Special Olympics. We have a member that's our Jersey City Board of Education. I'm grateful for that. The Board of Education has been very attentive to us, and I am grateful that they are paying attention to us finally, because they're helping us to solve the A. Harry Moore facility problem. And finally, Michael Sol was a Fulbright teaching scholar in Bulgaria. So we have some pretty impressive students. So anyway, the other program, and let me explain to you why we have Ascend. And I need to thank people for being leaders in the area. Ascend is a program that OSP, you get so much money from the state for that. And there are more students who have that need for extra support that OSP provides than the state's going to give you. So NJCU a few years ago said, why don't we start our own? Kane was already doing it. Montclair State does it. They'll have their own other programs. So we have the Ascend program. But I want you to look at their freshman to sophomore retention rate. It's 80%. She's already on it. And you ask Jessica, she can tell you who our sophomores are. She can tell you who our juniors are going to be next year. And that is going to make a huge difference. The other piece I will tell you, and Al Ramey said it today when I was talking to him, he said, you never know what impact you have on people's lives. I know there will be people that 10 years from now will remember that program, this program, and the difference those leaders made there. So, thank you. That we obviously don't have the 6-year or 4-year graduation rate simply because we've only had the program. This is what, the second year? So 3 years? Third years. All right, we're getting there. You're getting there. Yeah. How many students are in it? 100. So she runs a program in the summer along with OSP. Karen started a number of years ago, and they do the same program that we do with OSP in the summer. The other thing that they've added on, which I think is quite cool, and I'd like to kind of extend this to the rest of the freshmen, is this right here. They do a program towards the end of the summer, I think it is, where they help them with their career readiness, help them to figure out how to create a resume, how to do an interview, how to dress. I think there was this big scurry towards the end of summer. Does anybody have any professional clothes they would be willing? Or I think there was a big shopping spree. The foundation gave some money for them to go and buy just simple, nice clothes for the students to wear for their interviews. These are critically important because you have to model this behavior for a number of years. I was sharing with a student today. I was in a conversation this weekend with someone who learned that a lot of data about internships are the following. The most successful internships, people who get the most out of them, are the students who show up early every day and stay late and volunteer for stuff. Programs like this help them to understand the importance of what I fondly call the show-up test. It's really important. So, international cohorts. This was the first year we brought in, I think it's over 50 students from the Chinese joint degree programs. There are 3 institutions in China we work with. One of them is in the Jingling province, which is just north of Korea. The other is in Beijing City University. And then there's a third one where we get chemistry students. And these students are here. They came in a couple of weeks early to do some cultural immersion. And you already see them on campus. Some of them were at the board meeting the other night. So, and then we have the Patel Scholars Program. This is the 3rd year that we are doing this. Those students are funded by Chirag and Priti Patel, and they come to us from H8 College, which is in Ahmedabad. It is the city where Gandhi had his first ashram. So you always see the picture of Gandhi sitting and working on his spinning wheel. And it was at this particular location that, anyway, that school got started. So anyway, they're very supportive of it, and they fund these students, and a lot of them, again, also work on campus. So these are other students. I will share with you, places like Stevens, they're bringing 1,100 international students. If you look at a lot of schools, you know how many international students Columbia has? 3,000. A lot of schools have started engaging with institutions across the world so that to do a couple of things. One, it enriches their own curriculum, but the other is it gives you a way to get what I fondly call other places to find students. So as our transfer enrollment might dip, it's these 50 students that help keep our enrollment from dipping even further. So all of it kind of helps, keeps us going, moving along. We've sent students abroad as well as faculty. We have 25 students who went to Czech Republic, England, Italy, South Korea, and Spain. Some of you all got to go. And then we have 12 university faculty-led trips to India, Japan, Kenya, Mexico, Spain, and Sweden. These are all partially funded by the foundation. The students have to pay for some of it, and then their financial aid pays for some of it. And then we have honors trips to China, Germany, and Greece. These are mostly with institutions where we end up staying in their hostels or in their housing, and it's done, how would I say it? You may not go for a whole semester, you may go for a week. I learned this summer, I was giving a commencement address in the country of Georgia, and arrived there, and there were 3 people from Charleston, College of Charleston. Now it's a school that has, probably 8,000 students there. And I said, how many of your students go abroad? And they said, well, half of them do. And I said, how do you do that? And they said, well, some of the abroad trips are like during spring break. So to say they go abroad doesn't mean they go away for the whole semester, because they have busy lives. They can't necessarily all leave. So we've been able to get a lot of our students abroad, which has been very helpful. And I think it's also one of the skills that, or things that, that businesses like to see when you go to apply for a job. So I'm not going to talk about all the doctoral programs. I just wanted to talk about 2 of them. The security studies is a 3rd one. That would be maybe the next town hall. We started this year, and it's on the left-hand side here, the doctoral program in community college leadership. And this is their first cohort. We weren't real sure how well we would do. We are almost oversubscribed. I think you have, 23 in the cohort? And I will tell you, it is wildly successful in terms of energy. I had them to my house for a reception, and they're excited. A lot of them are leaders in community colleges around the state, some in New York, and they're thrilled. I think it's going to be a learning experience not only for the students, but also for the faculty, as it was in Edtech. When I talk to the Edtech faculty, they said we learn something every year from the students. So I'm thrilled with the program here. It's going very well. And this year, on the right-hand side, is the Edtech program, which, as they call themselves, they are the Magnificent 7, because this is their 7th cohort. This is a strong program. Every year, the student qualifications get better. If you look at the people who are showing up to be in that program, they, again, are a group that pushes that faculty, but the faculty push them back. I think it's a learning experience for everybody. So these are 2 programs that our 3rd one is the Security Studies program, and I'll spend the next town hall talking about that one. But a little bit about the Community College Leadership Program. Its first cohort had 23 students in it. They are college professionals from New Jersey, New York, and Wisconsin. Yes, we do have one from Wisconsin. 74% female, 65% persons of color. In July, the first conference, which they did to sort of kick this off, was promoting equity and student success, and there were 200 attendees. I had people from across the state make notice about this particular conference we did, which was very impressive. So, educational technology leadership, this is the 7th cohort, started this summer. We had the doctoral students supported the Pre-ECTO STEM grant, which I think is quite cool. And I do need to spend a moment here bragging on the Pre-ECTO program. We've been doing this for how long now, John?
This is mine. This isn't Pre-ECTO Science.
Oh, the Pre-ECTO Science? No, I know that. But how long have we been doing Pre-ECTO Science? Do you know? Like 10 years?
25.
Long time, long time. So what would happen, Pre-ECTO Science are students who have finished, hope I get this right, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. And they're here in the summer. So if you see all the kids here in the summer, it's a Pre-ECTO Science. And we tell them, when you finish your high school, we hope that you come to NJCU. Well, last week a student came to my door and said, I need to ask a question. I said, what is it? He said, well, I was in your Pre-Ecto Science program for 3 years in a row, graduated, I'm in your honors program now, and I'm finishing my second year. This will be my second year, and I want to next fall do semester at sea. Now here's how his story went. I said, well, what's your major? He said, well, I have 3 majors. I said, okay, no problem. He said, me and my family, his other siblings, decided when they left high school that they would not have their parents pay for any college. So he's in the honors program, which is, he's getting effectively a free ride. He lives at home, so that doesn't cost him anything. He stayed involved in Pre-Ecto. And so now he wants to do the semester at sea, which will finally cost him something. Well, semester at sea, in case you didn't know, I did not know the price tag on it, it's $42,000 for a semester. And it's because you're on a boat and you're going around the world and you get to visit all these really cool places and, you know, and they feed you and you take courses. She said, I need to do this. So we're going to start a little scholarship program where we'll pay for some of it. He went ahead and took the loan out because he wants to do it. But here's his argument on this one. I will have to borrow $40,000, and that's all I will have borrowed from an undergraduate degree. I'll have a triple major, and I got it because I came here for Pre-Ecto Science and your honors program. So to me, that's a fabulous story about the things that we are doing to make a difference and being able to give them effective education at what I call a McDonald's price. So anyway, and like I say, I think the semester at sea is going to make a difference in his life because he said, I asked him, why'd you come to NJCU? He said, I got accepted, and he listed all the schools he got accepted to. He said, I came here because I heard you and other people at this school talk about the diversity of the campus and how powerful it is to be in a classroom with people from so many different places. He said, I wanted to come for the diversity. So anyway, it's going to be exciting to see, and I won't keep up with him 10 years after he graduates because he's clearly going to be doing something impressive. All right, so the doctoral students supported the Pre-Ecto STEM grant. They gamified the orientation and success strategy. They pushed technology for advisement, and they did online support services. So I want to thank them for that. The Edtech student achievement. These are some of the honors that we have. Faculty positions, notice where they ended up. Their graduates ended up at Scranton, Northern Colorado, William Patterson, Kane University, and then some of the scholarships that they ended up getting as a result of it. So it's a highly successful program. I think Chris was sharing with me today that when we did this program, they did it before I showed up, there was a lot of competition in the state, and a lot of those schools have decided not to continue their program. Ours has just grown and gotten stronger every year. So something to be very proud of. So let's talk a little bit about housing. What year are we in the West Campus? Fourth year. This is our 4th year. It generally takes you about 5 years to do what I call settle down on getting the housing going, so there's a good flow and you figure out how to give them the services they need and you're not worried about the budget. So we are at 589 students and 4 international advisors. There are 600, that gives you what, 493 out of 604 spaces. There's 39 students still on the wait list. We do not let students, and Jim's happy, our new CFO is happy. You do not let them in take a room until we know that they're going to pay for it. We do have some students who work here on campus to pay for their housing. We've had students in the past who have ended up homeless, and we've gone to the foundation and said, could John, whoever the student is, work on campus and you help to pay for their housing? And we've done that in a number of instances because this is important. And by the way, that is actually not uncommon across the country, that you're finding more and more students with this situation. The thing about it is, let's just get them graduated, get them a good degree, have them find a good place to grow here as a human being, and then we would have done a good thing to help them to get their next place. So these are where we are with this. The continuous improvement, we are trying to continually improve our services to our students. We are considering converting the first floor common area to retail space. Right now, their students really wanted to make sure that there was food down there. So at 3 in the morning, if you want to get something to eat. So what they've done is put in a vending machine that has sandwiches and salads that gets traded out every day. I think we got this idea from what institution? Kane? Who else has it? Rutgers?
Nobody
Nobody
in New Jersey.
in New Jersey has this. What other? Okay.
In New York, they have.
New York has them. Address the meal plan options for food quality and variety. One of the things that students were complaining about is, okay, I can pay the X amount of money for my room, but then you're going to make me pay this ridiculously large amount for food I don't even eat, or I may not be here for these meals. Can you come up with something more flexible? So we're working with our procurement people to kind of rework our contract with them so that the students have more flexibility, particularly the juniors and seniors who are busy. They have lots of things they need to be doing. We want to address the perceived safety and security concerns in the West Campus Village. We did that by making sure that we had more videos so that we can monitor that, as well as making sure the security. Security is good, but the videos are golden because it's kind of hard for somebody to get away with something because it's just there. Improved maintenance request response times. That's something that I think Andre has already been very helpful with. Students need to know when their room is not either too hot or too cold or it's leaking, they need to know it gets fixed. And that is true not only for students but also for faculty and staff. So Andre has really trying to be much more responsive about that, and please let us know how we can improve on that one. So that, because I think that's important. It's not that we can always fix everything immediately, but we're working on it. And you've only to go to the stairwell in Hepburn, which started leaking last year, and we're trying to get that fixed. But it's going to take some retouching of the bricks on the outside to make that happen, which, by the way, is what they're doing to, which building is that? Rossi. So athletics. We are growing our athletics program. This is another way that you help with the enrollment. By the way, the exercise sports science program has been golden in helping us in terms of recruiting students, because many of the students want to major in that. But would you like to know what the major is of most of our baseball team? Security studies. Don't know why, but they all major in security studies or criminal justice. Some of my teams all major in the sciences. Just kind of, they tend to be, a lot of them in the same majors, which is fascinating to me. So we increased the teams from 12 to 21. We have men's and women's outdoor and indoor track. That ends up being a total of 6 teams right there, because you have men's and women's indoor, men's and women's outdoor. That's 4 more teams. And then we have women's golf. We already had men's golf. Men's and women's wrestling. Yes, there is such a thing as women's wrestling. Did not know that. I learned the data point. There are 22,000 K-12 school girls across the country who wrestle. One of the big strongholds of wrestling for women's wrestling is Pennsylvania and New York. So we're going to start recruiting there, and it's actually fairly popular here in this state. So the woman who is our head wrestling coach was actually an Olympian in wrestling. So, and then we have the men's and women's tennis coach, Jacob, and then finally our head men's wrestling coach. So these are things we've added, and the commitment for these individuals is that they have to recruit the students and retain them, so that next year I can show the same slide for the athletics program that I'm getting to show now with the OSP and the SIN program, because these are places where students progress well. This year, so far, men's soccer is 8-0-0. Is that correct, Will?
Yep.
Okay. Of course, Will does tell me they haven't paid NJAC right yet.
Right, not till Saturday.
Okay. Those are the harder teams?
Yeah, well, those are the conference teams.
Those are the conference teams.
But they're
But I'm excited about their record. Center of Leadership and Engagement. We now have housed on our campus the Campus Compact Leader for the state. And one of the benefits of that is kind of wandering over to his office and see, okay, how do we do student engagement? And student engagement, civic engagement, it has 2 parts to it. It's what you do as a club, but it's also what you do in class. So how do you take our classes? And we have a lot of classes that have civic engagement embedded in them. And we have faculty that worked on that last year and embedded it into their curriculum, so they're out doing civically engaged things. This is the mission and vision statement. You can hardly read it, but the Center for Leadership Engagement provides student growth throughout the following areas. We have an Armor Leadership Academy, and we have the Student Government Association, the Center for Community Engagement, the Gillian Student Union, and the campus activities. Do you want to talk about this a little bit? Because I am not up to speed on this.
Sure, no, that's okay. This is kind of the office that was formerly known as Campus Life, in order to ensure that we had a cohesive leadership program where all of the different areas of campus were able to come together and say, these are the leadership initiatives that we're doing in OSP, in athletics, in Ascend, in Res Life. Our Office of Campus Life really is now the hub of leadership initiatives on campus, where Jeff DeSuze and his team have leadership initiatives like the Armor Leadership Academy, which is a tiered program where starting your first year, you meet specific leadership criteria. And then as you grow, the portfolio becomes more expansive. And this way we know that when somebody leaves NJCU, they have met all of these tenets of leadership to say, this person was a leader here at NJCU. And so we partner, athletics has a leadership initiative, and we partner with each of these offices to say, you have your particular components. Here are the other things that we can help you with in order to make sure that it's something that's very prominent. Because when Campus Life was getting called before, people didn't quite know where they were going. Sometimes we got calls from Residence Life. Sometimes we got calls for dining services. Sometimes we got calls for tech needs that were happening. And so we want to make sure that that this new space that's here in GSUB on the first floor is really the space where all of our leadership, where our students are coming from, where they're going for resources, and that we have experts that are helping lead this charge. And then within that, the student government was the student government organization, and has changed their name to the Student Government Association, so that they can be seen as a leadership group on campus that is making and representing our students. They are an association. They are trained. They go to national programs and conferences and present, and they want to be seen and raised up versus just a club or an organization that is on campus. And then we have also really enhanced with the partners in the building itself, GSUB operations, where we're putting an online events request system, where we will be able to request our rooms online. You can see spaces. It coincides with school dudes, so that facilities will be able to get the work request to set spaces up. And all of that's happening right now because our whole goal is to be able to have the student union be able to be accessible to both of our internal community as well as the external constituents in Jersey City.
Thank you. Okay, the Center for Community Engagement. This is the part that we're doing with Campus Compact, and they have worked on food insecurity initiatives. We're working on a grant right now that would provide us with even more funding for our food bank. And I'm going to make a suggestion to the people who are overseeing this that we work with ShopRite. Because I was at a presentation Friday in Washington, D.C., where another president from South Carolina worked with Kroger, which is sort of the food place for the South, and they got them to provide the food rather than you having to go out and buy it. We may get some donated food, but I'm always after trying to get more and better, and that we serve the community just as much we serve, which we do, just as much we serve our students. But getting that out more and getting that information out. The community center is important, and it serves the community. I think we had a conversation yesterday with a group that wants to come in and help with reproductive rights for women and the services that they would offer. We're going to be trying to do that a little bit through counseling, but also through some of the other work around campus. Mentorship Collaborative, we're doing that, I think, with Big Brother, Big Sister, but also through the Campus Compact, and then obviously the Campus Compact. There's a lot going on that lots of groups are involved in this, and the thing that I'm hoping we will work on this year is making sure that we get this story out. It's an incredibly positive story of things we're doing. A lot of it is building on things you were already doing. It's in the DNA of this school, and it's just building that up and telling that story in a real cohesive package. So, if you had the chance 2 weeks ago, you got to see Wynton Marsalis, who was incredibly kind. He came, and generally when we bring headliners in like that, they'll give you a couple of songs. This guy stayed after. He talked to our students. There's one of our students who's an MFA student who I think he may end up doing work with eventually. So the people who perform are alumni who have left us years ago. Many of them are performing out in the field. They come back every year. They love doing it. And then these two other people, I think Don Smith was able to get, I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but it was a lot of fun. And I really like doing it inside because it was, the acoustics are a lot better. Anyway, I was quite impressed. Somebody asked Wynton how in the world he can still make those notes today. And he said, well, you just have the talent. He said, but I am a little bit older and it's a little bit harder. I think it's, as I was sharing with the New Jersey Symphony Orchestra people today, you know, playing music is a very physical thing. It takes a lot of strength. The Center for the Arts, we had the Locus of Memory and Neo-Latino exhibition. That was through October 12th. If you haven't had a chance to see it, please do. They had a great opening. And the Limerick Gallery has Revisiting Jerseyscapes. That's upstairs. And make sure you go by. These are both wonderful exhibits that get done. Our art department is fantastic. They will have exhibits throughout the year. And you can find it online or you can find it in the brochure, the arts brochure. These are quite impressive. The one that is down in the Visual Arts Gallery was done in collaboration with a school in Florida. One of our students left us, graduated, and went down there to teach. He got his MFA from here, went down there to teach, and started working on a collaboration between us and them. And unfortunately, last spring, he passed away. So it gave us all the more reason to do this. And so that's a little bit of what the exhibit was that we're doing here. So it was honoring him, but also continuing that collaboration. Fundraising, we have a $10 million pledge in. That's the largest in our history, and that one is going to be going for the Performing Arts Center. And I'm thrilled about that and happy that we've been able to do that. I was able to spend some time this summer with a gentleman, Bob Kay, who has committed $1 million towards our Monmouth project. He's another individual, I think, who could be a really good friend of NJCU, as well as some other people. I had lunch last week with a gentleman who works for Medtronics today. He's done a lot of major research on diabetes and wants to come back here and speak to students as well as faculty and staff. He works for Medtronics now. He used to work at Walter Reed. And then, of course, David Chu's father is another. David Chu is a gentleman that works in the defense industry in Washington, and his mother was a teacher here, a faculty member years ago, and he gives a scholarship in her honor. So we have 55% increase in cash received this past year and over 1,100 donors. And my hat is off to people like Cynthia. And I'm going to brag on her for just a second. I get an email this morning from a guy named James Rhee. You should Google him. James Rhee came here from Korea, went to Harvard, married a woman from North Carolina, and worked in the hedge fund industry. He worked in companies that said, okay, we're going to merge companies, we're going to get rid of companies. Well, one of the companies that came along was Ashley Stewart. He said, no, we're not going to get rid of this one. He said, I'm going to quit my job in the hedge fund industry, and I'm going to start running it. So he runs Ashley Stewart. Now, it's out of Boston, but he comes down here a lot. And we met with him at lunch, and in 2 nanoseconds, he gave us a gift. And he's very dedicated. So he writes me an email this week thanking us for the note that Cynthia just sent out to say, well, here's the student who received your scholarship. So that's an example of people who really do believe in the work that we're doing, and they're really eager to make a difference. I was sharing with a guy from the Symphony Orchestra today that I think it's the younger entrepreneurs, like the Patels, because, you know, who are going to make a difference, who want to give because they recognize what the future of the country's about. So anyway, this donor idea, the fact that we have 1,100 donors, that's important. I don't care if you write a $5 check or a $5,000 check. Just give. It's really important to know that you're committed, and I want to thank those of you who do give because it does make a difference. Every little penny counts. Okay, so A. Harry Moore. I'm going to do the presentation that I did the other night. It's a shortened version of what I did at the board meeting to explain a little bit about the history of A. Harry Moore, to let you know what our relationship is with the Board of Education and is with the district office. So the school was started in 1931, and that is, by the way, when the building was built. It served students with cardiac issues, physical disabilities, diseases like polio and muscular dystrophy. And as I pointed out to someone, yeah, it had a pool. Now the pool has long since not have anything in it. It has equipment in it because it serves as a very poor storage space. Frank Hague was the mayor of New Jersey City, and Arthur Harry Moore was the governor of the state. They were in attendance at the laying of the cornerstone in 1931, an opening day ceremony. So how did we get involved? In 1963, Jersey City State, we assumed control of the program. At that point in time, it was a program for special ed. And if you taught in elementary school or high school during those years, you would know that anybody who was special ed was mostly sent to a separate school. They really hadn't started thinking about mainstreaming, and that became more of a thing, I guess, in the 60s and in the 70s, to the point that I know in my own personal experience when I was teaching high school, 70s and 80s, that we had a special ed program, but they were on campus. They were on at my high school, and some of their classes they had with us, and some of them not. And I think that's what they have tried to continue to do more and more. The reason the population today consists of severely multidisabled and medically fragile students is the following. From the 70s up till today, school systems have tried as much as possible to keep students in their home district because it's more efficient, it's more effective, it's less disruptive to the family because if you have 5 kids, you're going to take them all to the same school. But that's not possible if the student that you have is in need of a lot of occupational therapy, physical therapy, needs to be tube fed, and has a lot of issues that has to be dealt with that the school can't manage. If you have that kind of a student, and every special ed student has what they call an individual education plan that the school team works on with the parent, and then they go to the district office, and the district office says, okay, this school can't meet the needs, where should we send them? So A. Harry Moore has been what we call the receiving school for students that fit this qualification for a number of years. And as the years have gone by, more and more of the school districts have said, well, we think we can solve the problem right here. So I'll show you that in terms of what's enrollment. So the typical student today has a lot of disabilities. But I will tell you that the teachers who work over there and the staff that works over there are incredibly dedicated to those students. Whether they're and it's occupational therapy, it's physical therapy, and it's teachers. That's what it takes because the students have a lot of needs. More than 10% of the students are tube fed. So you can't just have the school lunch program. Their food comes from the school lunch program, but then it has to be specially prepared for these students. So our special education program, that facility over there, the building that was built in 1931, okay, belongs to the Board of Education. So every year I have to do a contract with them that says, you're going to keep the building up so that it doesn't leak and bad things don't happen to it, and NJCU will administer the academic program in your facility. So if you've had a chance to visit the facility, you'll know that it isn't exactly in good condition. It's not even in decent condition, in my opinion. But anyway, so school districts have the legal responsibility to provide special education. I was talking about that to their students. They can provide the education in district, in other words, in their own schools, or they may be determined as appropriate in accordance with the individualized education program in out-of-district placements. We are considered an out-of-district placement. So even if a student lives across the street from A. Harry Moore, they will have to take their individual education plan, go to the county office, and the county office says, okay, you need to be going to A. Harry Moore. This is the best place. And the parent agrees to that. Yep, that's the best place for us to go. So they end up at our school. And that's called an out-of-district placement. The way that gets funded is that because we administer the academic program, we figure out what the cost is going to be and then divide that by the number of students we think we're going to get, and then we charge a tuition. That tuition very often ends up being more than they might have been able to have to pay if they were able to keep them home. So the school districts are not always really excited about sending them because of the expense, but they know they can't meet the needs, so they end up sending them to us. So placement in our program at the A. Harry Moore facility is considered a placement as an out-of-district setting. Sending districts, including the Jersey City schools, they pay tuition. We determine what the tuition is. It's kind of a negotiation. But the price is what the price is, because we have to pay for the staff to provide special education and services to the students they send to the program. So the enrollment, if you look at it 10 years ago, was at 150. But as I said, school systems are figuring out ways to keep their students home in district. So today it's only 93. Of the 150 that we used to get, 120 of them would come from Jersey City schools. The other 30 would come from school districts that are in the area, like Bayonne, Union City, other areas like that. Today it's 93. 75 of them come from the Jersey City schools. The other, 18 come from what they call other districts outside of Jersey City. It's a mixture. The decrease in enrollment, as I've told you, is partially due to their ability to mainstream a larger amount of students as mandated by the state, and the fact that the facility can no longer house students in the 5 floors. The fire department came in a few years ago and said, gee, you have students who are in wheelchairs on the 5th floor. How do you plan to get them out of the building in case of a fire? You have teachers. There is no way to get them out. So they said, well, you can't teach then, except from floors 1, 2, and 3. Because floor 3 has an egress out the back, floor 2 has an egress out the side, and the first floor has an egress out the front. You have to be able to have an egress out for students who have these needs. So right now we have them condensed on the 3 floors. The tuition is dependent on the programmatic needs of the students, and as enrollment drops, the cost per student increases. And there are basic services that need to happen for these students, whether there are 5 students over there or 500 students over there. You still have to provide those services. So the trick, and this is a conversation I had last week with the mayor, the city council, and the board, as well as some members of the school system, said there are 2 goals here. The students need to be getting a high quality education, and they need to be doing it in a facility that's the best for them. And in my mind, it wasn't a 3-story building where I'm fearful of a fire. So the facilities, there's been many reports. Let's talk a little bit about the facilities. I told you built in 1931. In 2006, the state came in to the Jersey City schools and said, let me look at all your facilities. Of all the facilities in Jersey City, there were 6 of the schools that really needed to be closed. And they didn't say just repair. They wanted us to close A. Harry Moore and rebuild it, because they said you just need to redo the building. In 2011, I think either we or they administered another engineering report and said, you know what, there's at least $11.3 million in capital renewal and deferred maintenance projects for A. Harry Moore. And then finally, we went now did ourselves and did a report in 2016, and it's $16 million of capital renewal. Now, it's not our money. It is a Jersey City school building. They have to find that money to do it. And what you have to think about is, I don't know how many schools there are in Jersey City, but they have all the other schools they're trying to deal with, and then there's A. Harry Moore. So we always ended up at the bottom of the list, for whatever reason. So on the first day of school, at 5:30 in the morning, part of the portico fell, resulting in the closure of the school. So what they decided to do is bring in some structural engineers, and they actually did an x-ray of the building and realized that it was unsafe to enter it. On Monday, September 9th, the number of elected officials, the Board of Education representatives, and us, we had a meeting and we decided what to work together. So now Will and a bunch of us in the room have a daily phone call at 1 o'clock on what we're going to do. 2 years ago, we met with them and said, you've got to get us a better facility. So we went I guess it was about a year and a half ago, and toured a facility for which there would be space. It's a little tight. As a matter of fact, it's a little more than a little tight, and they're going to solve that. But they said, no, we're not going to do this. We're going to leave you here, because we do the facility, you do the program. So now they've decided that facility is okay. So they are moving us to the regional day school, which is where it's a building they built a few years ago. It's got solar panels on it, it's new. It is one floor, so I don't have to worry about going up and down stairs. It is 1 floor, and it's housed, part of what's housed in there is a school for autistic children. And they have a program that they do for children who are going to be graduating and going to work, which is something perhaps some of these students might be able to do. Don't know. So anyway, the idea, we are moving there, and we have a walkthrough on Saturday with the parents. I think they're already moving the stuff over. They're having to build some things. They have to build a portico, because the students, when they get off the buses, need to be able to not get wet. They need to be able to make sure that they have the appropriate things in the restrooms. They have to have what they call changing rooms. They're putting on another trailer for storage, which they have to have. What happens every day, if you show up as a student, you have the wheelchair that you have at home. Very often they will take you and move you to another wheelchair that's more flexible that we can, for class. But I have to store that wheelchair. So it needs to be put in a safe place. Last year they would store it in the hallways, and that's not really feasible. So they're going to find another place to store it over there so that it's sort of out of the way. So that's an example of what we're working on. The food service, I think they just solved that problem today, right, Will? Allegedly. We keep working on it. We have a daily phone call at 1 o'clock, and generally I talk to the chairman of the Board of Education a couple of times a day. So I am happy to answer any questions about it. I've tried to explain what the legal arrangement is, what the programmatic arrangement is. But the principles, and I've been very clear on, is I need to make sure the students are getting a high-quality education in a good space. And it is not that the teachers are not doing a good thing. I just don't think they've had the right space to do it in. So, anyway. And I can answer any questions after this is over. The Budget Task Force, Jim, you want to talk about it at all? Are you made to talk about it? Good. Okay. So, Jim, the Budget Review Task Force charge, it's to enhance the understanding of our resources, promote transparency of the budget process, and collegial discourse and fulfillment of mission and strategic initiatives. So what he plans to bring you, which is something the board's asked for, is sort of where our budget is, where our funding is, what our revenue looks like based on the enrollment and the retention, and then what the expenditures are, and then how we're spending as the year goes by. The objective is the following: no mid-year surprises. And I understand that we could have a hurricane come along and there would be mid-year, I get that, but minimize the mid-year surprises. We are doing things like making sure the capital projects have their own budget, so we are anticipating any problems with that. The objectives, again, understand the budgeting for the fiscal year 2020, understand the budget development process and recommend changes, and then help develop the balanced budget for the fiscal 21, 22, and 23. The idea is to have a 3-year rolling budget that we know where we're going with it. One of the things that Jim was tasked with doing this year, and I'm grateful to him for doing this, is moving more money to reserves. Our reserves had gone down over the last few years because every year we would budget for here and enrollment would be there, and we would end up using reserves to make up the difference. And there's a point of no return on that, so we have to go back and put some money back in reserves. So the governor gave us $1.5 million extra this year. We are going to put that in reserves and just learn to live off what we had, and that's an example of some things that we did. We did sell the College Street housing. There were 5 houses here that were causing us a lot of headache in terms of to keep them fixed up. And so we were able to sell those. We took the proceeds from that and put it in reserves because we need to be adding to our reserve. And then the great colleges task force, Sue Gerber and Aaron and Jason are heading this one up. The 2 of them are civility and shared governance. This came out of the great colleges to work for, as well as the coach survey. Both of those address the issues around civility and shared governance. The recommendations are going to be presented at the town hall in December. And then the idea is to put together some plans to make this happen. Then leadership services. We have the Vice President of Student Affairs and Enrollment Management. That search is ongoing right now. We will begin the search on the Dean of College Education. I think those of you in the Senate got a note about this one. The Assistant Provost of Student Success and the Assistant Associate Provost of Undergraduate Experience. Yeah. And then Middle States. We have our Middle States meeting this fall. The chair is Bill Fritz. He's the president of where's the president? Staten Island. Before that, he was the provost at Georgia State and helped really implement a lot of the stuff that Georgia State is doing now. So he's very familiar with the work that Tim Rennick's doing down at Georgia State. So our visit is March 29th to April 1st. And if you want to see the draft of it, help yourself. Any suggestions you have? Sue is always willing to take suggestions and recommendations. Make sure you look at that. And then the strategic planning process. We will be beginning our strategic planning process in October. We will be bringing in people from students, faculty, staff, alumni, the community board members. It will be a pretty big group that we want to bring together. We have a lot of people both on our foundation board, our advisory boards, as well as the Board of Trustees, who are really getting engaged and having some good suggestions for how we can be a more effective organization. It's important to bring back our alumni because they are really getting engaged now. They are helping us with our mentoring, they're helping us with our internships, they're helping us with donations, and then students, faculty, and staff. I'm hoping we can get some people from the Jersey City Board of Education on this board, the committee, because we should be getting input from them. What would they want to see? So, that's it. Questions? Oh, you're too quiet. Yeah, Barbara?
So you know that I'm interested in A. Harry Moore.
Yeah.
And I think the collapse of the portico and the building be declared unsound, nobody could have, in one sense you could have predicted it, but you couldn't have predicted it for September.
Right.
Do you consider the building that they're moving into a permanent location, or just something that's, you know, it's good that it's there so that the students
Okay,
are not
so,
in the streets?
you know, Barbara, I'm going to let you be on my phone calls with Sudan. So here's how his quote was. His quote was, this is their temporary location. If you notice my quote, because I told Sherry to change it, it's the location. And here's why. It's already one story. They even said, you know what, we could add on to it. It has a good parking lot. It is a potential. But my fear, my biggest fear, is they're going to move us there, and then they'll get an epiphany in March, and they'll say, oh, we're going to move you back into the old building. So, and you do understand, okay, I'm really doing way too much inside football here, but this meeting that I sat in with the mayor and the city council and the Board of Education, I sat through half the meeting and said, wait a minute, this really isn't about anything other than we are the political football, because at the time, the city council was having a fuss with the mayor. So, we're the problem du jour for them. So I want them, and right now Sudan is really focused on what is for the students. So if you have a suggestion on where to move them, but I don't want to move them again, because this is disruptive to them. You know what I mean? As long as I get in there, and what happens if we find out the space isn't big enough? It's the only place they could move them right now.
I agree with all of that.
Okay.
Disaster
And I don't know what the solution is. Yeah.
They don't have a kitchen, is my understanding.
So what they're doing with the kitchen is the following. The students at that school, and I didn't know this, it's been a long time since I've taught, students in a lot of schools don't have kitchens. So they have a site where they prepare the food and they plate it, and then they bring it to the schools. So that's what they are going to do. Now, what I think we learned today is they are planning for our staff to plate it over, to fix it over there at A. Harry Moore.
Yes, there's still conversations.
Yes, it is in progress, Barbara. Two principles to me. You know what one of the plan was? You couldn't make this one up. They were going to fix it at their off-light location, bring it here to my campus. And I don't know where I was supposed to do that because I don't own the kitchens here. They belong to the vendor. And we were supposed to chop it up and prepare it there and then get it to the students. I said, by the time I get it there, you know, if it was supposed to be hot, it sure isn't hot by now, you know. So I said, no, we're going to come up with a good solution. So we're working on that one.
So it continues to work, because my main concern is that it be a continuing, you know.
Conversation?
Not a conversation.
You want us to put you on the emails?
I think that the Jersey City School Board has a lot to answer for in relation to the program. So my only other question is, I yield to anybody who has a question, but the Ascend Career Readiness just strikes me as an excellent idea and helpful to every student as they're graduating. If students are not in the Ascend program, what are the career placement opportunities for seniors?
So an excellent idea. So two things. One, you start with getting the internship program stronger. And so many of the faculty here have connections in the field. If I want to know somebody who's going to do work in the pharmaceutical industry, I'm going to go to Rob because he's got connections. Now, we have some because we have some donors who come, but between your advancement office, usually, your alumni, and your faculty, You work with the dean's offices who have internship people in them to get the internship. Now we've done the internship, like she's getting ready to do next year. Now they're getting ready to graduate. How do I make sure they're going to get a good job? We have got to work on a career services office that's much robust. And Tamara said that. You want to talk?
The career office is under my charge as provost, and I am going to put together some plans moving forward on how to make this office more robust.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm thinking of is that, sorry my back is too much. One thing I'm thinking that we need to strengthen here is to embed more curricular content into curriculum, meaning that students should be aware from the time they're a first-year student of what the skills that they're learning and gaining, how they translate into career-ready skills. So I'm thinking through those areas, but would love feedback on career office too. But that's definitely uppermost in my mind this year.
See, one of the things I was thrilled about doing it before they even show up, you put it into their head that this is important. It's important. So then you do that, and then we need to keep doing it. We just need to keep saying, what does it take? It's the soft skills. It's the capacity to network. You know, it's really all those things. And then, because I want them to get the job, but I want them to be the rock stars that get the pay raises and the pay, you know, that people are going after. So. And it's a couple of things. Your advancement, very often with institutions, your advancement office is so tied into this because they are out in the field all the time finding companies. So then you find the companies who want to come in and do the work. Companies very often will do that. And that's a little bit of what Fidelity did with us with the MBA program. They said, would you change the MBA program a little bit so that you can better serve us? But it's a big one, and you can ask how many times I asked Sue Gerber, I need to get data on where our students go after they graduate. Private schools do it very well because they have you by the hook. And we need to be doing it because I think it's like internships. I think we do more internships than we count. Just getting the count of it. But then now we need to say, okay, what's the next step?
Very hard, I think, for many seniors to do it on their own.
Oh, it is impossible. They shouldn't have to do it on their own, right? I agree. Yeah. But I'm glad you brought it up. It's one of the first things Tamara asked me when she showed up. Another question? Okay. If any of you want to be on the 1 o'clock calls, Barbie, you'd be fascinating for you to see because it's how the sausage is being made. And everybody's trying. Everybody is trying. I agree. So, all right. I really thank y'all so much. I need to thank you. This place would not be where it was if every one of you didn't get up every day and do the fantastic job you do. And that is whether, okay, so I've got to tell another story. My very first year, you and, what was it, Dennis. Remember we went to dinner, right? So I had to move. I moved to another place and I hung one of the pictures that you brought because we have an illustrator who teaches us. As an adjunct and a favor. We have fabulous faculty doing amazing things. I was so proud to be able today with the New Jersey Symphony Orchestra said, well, did you know? And Joe had just sent me something about a new faculty member we had, a drummer. So we have some impressive faculty, whether they're full-time or part-time, and amazing staff who are so dedicated. So you need to give yourself a pat on the back. And I got to call out Theta because Theta did a great job and continues a great job with the student newspaper. So you better stand up so everybody can see who you are. Come on, stand up. But thank you again, and have a good afternoon. We didn't do juice and cookies, did we, Sue?
We did not.
All right, take care.